mentioned, the most discouraging to me is to go in and say, I know where that box is. I get that gift box, and I go there, it's got to have some good stuff in it, and I open it up, and it's got a bunch of folders that I don't care about. The folder that I want, a piece of paper in it. Records lost. Not from the archives, on the battlefield or wherever. And unfortunately, it happens a lot. Looking at some of the POW research efforts that we do, Dan went into good detail on the camps and on the POW routes, Johnny Johnson list, information from our oral history program and interviews with the ex-POW. Again, refines all this for us. We use Record Group 59, State Department files. Hey, every good government agency tells everybody about how good they are, right? So, state has copies of files that we may not find in the Army's files for some reason, but the state's got a copy. Initial POW, the POW report done right at the end of the war, and the first copy we found were in State Department, Record Group 59. Record Group 59 has some POW debriefing files too. Also look there, of course, for Cold War losses. Record Group 153, Judge Advocate General, Korean War Crimes, have sometimes detailed statements that witnesses made, to include former prisoners, that aren't in their prisoner debriefing file, because there was a separate request made by the lawyers for information on a war crime. And then Record Group 92, Quartermaster General, they're of course the great registration guys who were responsible for gathering up the remains and looking for. And additional information can come from an individual's personnel file. Again, you'll hear more about that later today. This is another example of the resources we use. Record Group 407, my friend, I'm in here all the time. 407 is the Army Adjutant General. Another case where the Adjutant General is the paper guy, but all the units reported to the paper guy what they did. So most of the time, unit reports can be found in Record Group 407, as well as personnel things and other stuff. And Russian Defense Archives, as Dan mentioned, often contain details of the air defense. Russians were on the ground manning air defense guns. Russians were helping the Chinese in air-to-air. And those records, they shoot down somebody, they get money for it. So they did detailed searches at times for the guy they shot down to hopefully to get that money. Well, I'm sorry it didn't go through as a movie, but ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my briefing. Thank you for your attention. Will you need question and answer? Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We've actually got some of the folks that are reading the Cold War issues. They're next door, so once they're finished, they're going to come in here and they'll be up here too. So you get questions specifically to some of the Joint Commission Support Division and the U.S. Russian Joint Commission. We'll have some of those folks in. But we're going to open up the floor to questions. We're going to do something a little bit differently. I had some folks approach me and said we ought to control the mics a little bit better. So we're going to have folks that are holding mics kind of stand next to you, and so kind of cut to the chase on the questions. So a lot of more folks can ask questions. So with that, just raise your hand. We'll start with the microphone. Got a question back there.
Since all the U.S. recovery operations in North Korea are on hold, what evidence do we have that the North Koreans are conducting recovery operations unilaterally that we may be unaware of? I mean, they've done it in the past, so perhaps they're doing it at present. So how can we learn more about these efforts if they are occurring? We requested information from North Korea on the status of any unilateral investigation.
This is on.
Yeah.
In fact, in Panmunjom or other opportunities, the North Koreans do report to specific audiences finding remains as a sort of enticement to bring us back. They reported to a congressional delegation in 2008 finding remains in the Kujak area of 96 to 100 individuals. individuals. And then they reported a little bit later about finding a dog tag from a 3rd Battalion Cavalry person lost. That was mentioned in the Q&A yesterday also. So we think they are doing that, and it makes sense because they want us to come over there and they want us to be successful. So they're not just going to ignore when they find remains on the ground. Now, there's one thing I will say to that. In your case summary sheets, if there's a report by the North Koreans that corresponds to your loss area, we will mention that in the case summary sheets that the North Koreans reported to us specific findings, whether, some of that's embellished or whatever, but we report that as they reported to us.
Okay.
Hi, you mentioned the prison camps 1 to 5 near the Yellow River, but you didn't mention Death Valley Camp, which was just below that, also close to the river. Now, is there a cemetery nearby those prison camps? I'm assuming my brother was buried right in the camp. But
Yes.
he would still be buried.
I probably could have gone an extra half hour, which would cause people to leave the room and work. I could have gone an extra half hour on probably on POW camps. There were POW holding points, which were temporary camps where people were housed en route to the main camps on the Yellow River. One of those was Ocean-Terrigal Valley, also called Death Valley. That was 2nd ID, 25th ID Infantry Division. POWs captured November 1950. There's about 300 individuals who died in Ocean-Terrigal. We know who they are because the camp doctor and the medic kept track. Dr. Shadish kept track of the people who died there. Now, the POWs from there told us that they believe POWs were buried in mine shafts or just taken away. The POWs themselves did not bury their own folks, unlike in Camp 5. They didn't bury the Chinese or the North Koreans buried them. And it's our understanding some of them were buried in mine shafts because Ocean-Terrigal is a mining camp. And one other point about that is there have been 4 identifications done by JPAC that relate to that camp that were found a bit south of there. So, more indication that, by the way, just aside, that camp is in Nonsan County, and the Koreans have authorized us in the past to do searches in Nonsan County. And JPAC has gone within 12 miles of that county, that camp was working its way up to that camp when we suspended operations in 2005. So that's more information that some of y'all need to know, but for folks who were had a lot of people associated with it, and that's why I brought that out.
Very good. Dennis? Great.
I just wanted to share that my brothers remained were returned to Washington, D.C. yesterday. He was killed 63 years ago at the Chosin Reservoir Battle. He will be buried Monday at Arlington National Center. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and the people here are doing a wonderful job in pursuing this. And we had given up many, many years ago. And so what I want to share is that all of you